I would say the most difficult part for me was the emotional aspect of, having Candace out here, especially in the beginning when she got voted off first, and then whether or not, the decision whether or not to switch with her, and not knowing what Redemption Island looked like for her, and coming every time to a duel thinking that wondering if she was going to win or not. Um, Going to Redemption Island and seeing her, and then she leaves 2 days later. I mean, it was very emotional, and that was probably the hardest part of it all for me. But overall, I would say it was an incredible experience. It I've definitely never had anything like it, and I think it it was interesting that no matter how much Candace told me about the game, experiencing it for yourself is always different and always harder than you can imagine. So it's definitely way harder than I thought it was going to be. And I have a lot of respect for people who've played this game and for people who've played it for a really long time. Lasted 39 days. I mean, I lost 21 pounds in 19 days. So, I mean, I wouldn't have much left by the end of 39 days if I'd stayed in. I think from a strategic standpoint, the biggest thing that hurt me was Candace getting voted out of the game. I feel like if Candace had stayed in the game or had been able to stay with her tribe, Brad would not have organized, or Brad and Vetus would not have organized my blind side. When we first were starting things, I was the free agent in my alliance. I was the one person who was potentially uncoupled. And so everybody kind of thought that was advantageous to keep a free agent around in your alliance, because at some point, if you keep all the couples together, you're going to want that odd person to be able to drive a wedge between the couples and be able to be a swing vote to get people out. Once Colton quit the game, Caleb became a free agent, and he was a little more appealing because people thought he was maybe less strategic, and Brad certainly thought that he had Caleb in his hip pocket, and Caleb would never do anything to Brad, and which proved to be not true, as history is going to show. And so Brad just thought that with two free agents, he wanted to keep all the couples together, and ended up voting me out. But that never would have been on the table for discussion if Candace had still been in the game. My first 2 days on Redemption Island were actually not that bad. I showed up and Candace was there. My support system in life was sitting with me on Redemption Island for a couple days. We had a good time hanging out. We hadn't spoken in a couple weeks. It was very, very nice to see her. I could talk about the game. I could sort of tell her my experience, what I thought happened, and my blind side, and all that sort of stuff. Give her a little insight into what was going on in the game. And we fished together. We cooked our dinner. We had a good time, and slept under the stars. It was great. And Redemption Island was very, very beautiful. Then Candace lost to Brad, and Brad and I were on Redemption Island for 3 days, and it was kind of fun. We passed the time by throwing the football around. We caught fish. We cooked and all that sort of thing. And the days started getting longer. They started feeling a little hotter. Then Brad lost to Laura Moret, and Laura and I were out there for 5 days together. And Laura was great with me out there, but it just, the place, Redemption Island over time, while it's very picturesque, it's a pretty inhospitable environment. I mean, it feels like it's about 120 degrees in the shade when you're out there. There's little reprieve from the sun. The sun comes up earlier than you want it to. It sets later than you want it to. You can only fish once a day because the tides and the swells are only just right for one short period of time. The trees bear no fruit. It's just kind of a barren place, and just walking to and from the well to get fresh water was an exhausting endeavor. So after about 6, 7, 8 days, Redemption Island really starts to wear on you, and you also have no physical or no human contact with anybody in the game. You have no clue how all your former friends are doing. You just feel so isolated, and it's a really it gets a really lonely place. Even though you're with somebody else, it's a very lonely place, and you get a little bit of information and a ton of time to sit there and think about it and ponder scenarios that don't ever end up coming to fruition. And those 12 days were a gut check, absolutely. Looking at my sort of top 5 experiences that I liked in the game, the first is probably winning all of those duels kind of back to back. Going on a run like that gives you a lot of confidence, and sending Brad home after he'd just gotten me voted out of the game was that was like the nice little cherry on top of the icing, that he left the game before me. Even though I don't really have any hard feelings toward Brad, I just he caused my downfall in the game, so it was nice, karma to have him go out first. So I'd say winning all those challenges, having Brad go before me, getting to spend 2 days on Redemption Island with Candace, just she and I alone, having a good time, enjoying enjoying everything about the beauty of Redemption Island, and having our own little Survivor game, just the two of us, fishing, eating coconut, making fire, all that kind of stuff. That was great. The challenge where I blasted Aris into the water, that was a lot of fun. And then the number 5 thing is sitting on Redemption Island and finding out that Brad had gotten voted out the next tribal council by Caleb pulling a big move at tribal council that caused Brad to go out of the game that would never have happened if he hadn't voted me out. So it was sort of like everything kind of coming full circle and being like, told you, that was a bad decision. So those are probably my top 5 experiences. I would say by far and away the worst experience was watching Candace get voted out, and then coupled with having to make the decision, whether or not to switch with her. That was the toughest part for me. It was nice to get the toughest part of the game out of the way first, though, because everything else was easy compared to that. If I was given the opportunity to play Survivor again, I absolutely would do it. It was really awesome, and I think I feel like I may have a little bit of unfinished business left.